Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
And I'm the Gamer in Yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories most creepy and most pasta. And as kind of an impromptu spring of Skinwalkers, most Skinwalker-y?
Wah wah.
Yeah. And tonight we're doing Skinwalker and Skinwalkers.
The sequel to Skinwalker.
Not really, at all.
I know.
But good try.
I was making an Alien of Aliens reference.
No, but good try.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
But yeah, so for those of you not in the know, creepypastas are short internet stories that get copied and pasted across the internet, whether it be on Reddit No Sleeps, wiki pages, forums, 4chan. Go Google it. A little bit of housekeeping just before we begin the show full. You may have noticed that Dr. Leviathan has been kind of spotty in the last couple of episodes with his appearances, and that is partially because his scheduling with previous engagements have kind of been in flux. So it's going to continue on like that. He may not be on the show all the time for the foreseeable future, but once he gets all that stuff figured out, he will be back on the show, and he will have his bowl of dicks all over the place.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather not have that. Doesn't sound very pleasant, but you know.
So keep tuning in. Just something to keep in mind. Dr. Leviathan will return, and Mikey's still sick. Man, just Starfields all over the place. Just upchucking.
Oh, fantastic.
Forever.
Yeah.
Pretty nasty. We've sent in 5 custodial cultists, and they've just never returned. But
just taken over by a sea of vomit.
Yeah, of like plasma and like void.
Yeah, as it would be. Yeah.
Well, because he's a Starfield, right? So
I'm aware. I've met the guy.
All right, so yeah, back to task though. It's kind of been an impromptu like spring of Skinwalkers, because I realized a lot of the stories I've like chosen for this next couple of weeks has had Skinwalkers in it. Though that'll probably end as of next week or so, but we'll see, whatever. But yeah, tonight we're doing Skinwalker and Skinwalkers, which are 2 separate stories that have their own problems. We'll get into it. So Skinwalker is by Max Minton, or Holy Heretic, on Creepypasta Wiki. You can check it out there, or go check out the readings of it on YouTube. There's several of them, including one by Gettin' Spooky. Yeah, we'll just dive right into the rundown of it. The narrator's recalling the story his dad told him about how a creature he called the Skinwalker killed his dad on a hunting trip. So the narrator is being told by his dad how they lost their grandfather, basically.
Yes.
It's
although it wasn't originally portrayed that. Like, they didn't explain that very well from the get-go.
Yeah, it's a little confusing.
Continue.
Yeah, so doing so after... he's recalling all this and getting this account together after finding some stuff out online about the rake? Wait. Anyway, basically, while the narrator's dad was 13 and hunting coyotes in Ohio with his dad on their landlord's land, anyway, word repetition there constantly.
Yeah, a little bit, but
they come across a huge bloody mess left by something. They track it down despite the warning signs of all the forest creatures. Like, just all these forest creatures, like big and small, carnivore and herbivore, running away from the thing they're tracking. Yeah. But anyway,
they're like, no, it's fine. Yeah. We'll keep going.
They get to a half-destroyed schoolhouse ruin out in the woods, or out in this like field, and they confront a humanoid thing that attacks and just destroys the narrator's dad's dad.
No. Yes.
Yeah. Right? Shit. The narrator's dad runs to the landlord's place because it's quicker than where their car was or wherever they were based at. Here, among some other buddies that the landlord has at his house, they basically barricade themselves in when the creature comes after them. and are besieged by it, basically. Like, it tries to get into the house and get to them. They manage to take off one of its hands before the cops, and keep it away from the full interior, like the core of the house. Like, it goes into the second floor and tries to get through through one of the staircases before the cops show up, and like by morning it disappears basically.
Oh, it disappeared that night.
Yeah, it disappeared that night. Like
they took off its hand,
and then they blasted the door.
Yeah, they said duck, and then they shot the crap out of the door, and then it
gone. Vanished. Yeah, and then the cops showed up. Later, the narrator's dad, after some time seeking help at like hospitals and then getting
psychiatric wards,
basically, and getting work from the landlord, joins the military, and then the landlord disappears while he's still at like boot camp, basically, where he finds out about that. And presumably years later, the dad too also vanishes when he goes out into the woods because he's mourning the death of the narrator's mom, or his wife.
Yes.
So the FBI do a cursory search, but it's revealed to the narrator with bribes that they lose people all the time in these woods. And before the FBI agent leaves the bar, he leaves the word "the rake" on a napkin. And then we kind of get full circle by having basically him say, "This is how I found out about the rake," and he kind of is better. He kind of wishes he hadn't found much any information off about it, because it's like seems like a lot weirder or just stranger than. It seems like there's some kind of cover up or something going on, or conspiracy.
Just hang on a second. I thought the father was the one who bribed and like slightly intoxicated one of the police officers.
I was under the assumption it was the narrator.
No, because the narrator entire time is just telling the story.
Yeah, and that's the problem with the story, is that that's an issue with the story, is that it's basically dadception. or guyception, because it's basically the narrator, who I'm assuming is a guy, and I'm sorry if that wasn't the intention.
Just for simplicity's sake.
Yeah.
Actually, it might be easier to assume it's a girl, because then we can say he and she. Because we can say she is the one telling us, and he is the father, and then...
Yeah, that's fair.
Then grandpa.
Yeah.
So it's she, dad, grandpa.
Yeah. So, regardless, though, so the narrator basically, like, looks up the stuff on the rake, after because I was pretty sure it was the FBI, because the dad like goes missing, right? And then the FBI goes search for him, and then he tries to find out some information from the FBI, like why they aren't doing a better enough search for him.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So then the narrator like basically leaves off with she hadn't looked up stuff about the rake because it's kind of weird and creepy.
Yes.
And then that's the end of the story. So with that hack job of a rundown, we'll go into my thoughts, or our thoughts, basically. Mm-hmm. We'll switch it up.
My thoughts don't matter; it's mainly yours.
Yeah. You are the guest. No.
Of course.
Here's starting off basically with a quote. People talk about ghosts and aliens, and you think to yourself, in quotes, "That isn't real. They're making it up, or they're mistaken, or they're crazy," end quote, or something like that. So with this quote at the beginning. These either need to have separate quotations or no quotations at all, like between that, because that isn't real, they are making it up, or they're mistaken, or they're crazy, is all like a quote. And I feel like those should all be like separate questions, or like in quotes.
Oh, so just
or just like
grammar-wise.
Dude, be prepared for grammar, man.
Oh, I'm aware. I'm just saying, like when I read it, it was a little dodgy, but I didn't really care because I understood.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, like we're trying.
I have enough notes as it is.
But yeah, either have them separate quotes, like as like proposed questions, or just have them like without the quotes, just so it's just like a strain, like a line of or stream of thought, basically.
That's what it was.
Yeah, but with the quote, it kind of threw me off, like because it didn't really, it felt clunky, like the sentencing, like with the quote with those quotes in there.
There's just a lot of ors in there. That's all.
Next quote, basically, because I've got a couple of them.
Go for it.
It didn't take me long to believe in the rake. Wait, what? I thought this was a Skinwalker story.
Yeah.
Like that's basically my first, like, also some of these are, like, basically I wrote them down as I was reading the story. Like,
yes.
So I was like, yeah, wait, why is this called the Skinwalkers when it's... Anyway, and in segue to that, he called it Skinwalker after an old Cherokee tale. All right, so first off... Skinwalker legends originate from the Navajo people.
Yes.
Primarily, anyway. And while a lot of the stories that you read online about the Skinwalkers, like the Skinwalker sightings and creepy stuff, like creepypastas and stuff like that, are inspired by that, by the legend of the Skinwalker. There's a lot of creative license I've noticed in those stories, since apparently, according to some quick research I did online, basically Wikipedia and some other websites, some other websites, because I actually was curious to see if it was strictly Navajo or if there was a Cherokee legend, and I couldn't find a Cherokee legend of the Skinwalker aside from maybe the Wendigo, but that's more of a universal like northern Midwestern legend of. Mm-hmm. The Skinwalker is definitely more like southwest location. Okay. Which is also why I thought it was weird when it was in Ohio. I actually thought that the author had missaid a state, and basically I thought he was like, hey, did you mean Idaho? Or maybe because I made that mistake once in my life. Like I was like I thought Ohio was actually Idaho.
Oh, okay. Well, we're not Americans, so we wouldn't know.
Yeah, but so
or it's just when he wrote it, he just kind of picked random origins and random
and like again like the whole Cherokee the whole story is basically formatted like a like it's being told to us by the father, because like if you notice every paragraph has a quote at the beginning and never at the end, so it's almost a constant basically a constant monologue.
Yeah, because the narrator is telling us
he's basically paraphrasing or chronicling what his father told him.
He's like reciting it word for word.
Yeah. So I mean, it makes sense, and I like those. I like that style of story because I've read it before in like pulp stories and stuff like that.
And it's cool because it's like a campfire story. It's like you're sitting down.
Exactly. Yeah, you're hearing the story, and so again, I can kind of give it a pass that like, oh yeah, well, I mean, he's an old redneck, like American guy. He's like, he doesn't like know what Indian tribe came up with what, right? So, like, apparently at the beginning, or at the end, he even mentions that his father never knew about the internet, or didn't ever use the internet, so he wouldn't know how to research that stuff. So, again, it's just kind of like...
Did we get a year in this for when it took place?
No, and I'm going to bring that up as well later, because, that's something else that kept confusing me in the story, but we'll touch on that in a second. Anyway, so that was my first thing. Was like, it's Navajo legend, not a Cherokee one.
Yes.
Secondly, what was that? Secondly, this is in Ohio, so I'm surprised that this wasn't a story trying to link the Rake to the Wendigo more than the Skinwalker. It seems to fit the MO a bit more, like the whole cannibalistic thing, because... Actually, some more research I did with the Skinwalker subject, because the Wendigo is like this evil spirit that's possessed somebody to become like a cannibal and stuff like that. And
it's like Until Dawn.
Yeah, and it's like a creepy. Yeah, exactly. It's a creepy the Rake and depictions of the Wendigo have a very similar kind of look to it. Skinwalkers, they're a little bit different. Like the thing with the Skinwalkers, and what I tried to bring up was that the reason why all the stories have such creative license and such varying degrees, or they just seem really weird compared to the actual Navajo legend, which is basically that Skinwalkers are witches or evil shamans or dark shamans that can transform to animals and to seek revenge on other people or seek vengeance on people. But the reason why there's so many varied versions, like the Skinwalker stories we've done on the show, where it's like a weird humanoid creature in the woods that tries to mimic people and stuff like that, is because at least according to some of the stuff I looked up, the Navajo people don't generally like to talk about Skinwalker stories to outsiders because they don't trust them, or they don't want. It's kind of like one of those cultural taboos, because you don't know who's a Skinwalker and who's not.
Oh yeah,
kind of thing. Basically kind of that kind of stuff, and that's why online, anyways, it seems like Skinwalker stories have such a weird varied distinction.
It's not like they're all very close to the same sort of thing. It's very varied.
Yeah, and actually the next story we're going to do on the mini story we do on the show, Skinwalkers, is actually a little
completely different story,
but is also kind of closer to the original legend.
Yeah, this is a Wendigo story. This first one's a Wendigo story.
Yeah, this first one's definitely a Wendigo story trying to blend in with the Rake. And actually, so to bring it back to what I was about to say. It seems like the Wendigo would fit the Rake's MO a little bit better. And actually, some more research on this Skinwalker subject has me also thinking that the common internet legend and stories are actually more or less a fusion of Skinwalker and Wendigo legends for the MO. For Skinwalker stories, online Skinwalker stories.
Yeah.
So as silly as the name is, Fleshgate, as an emergent name for these digital tales of this monster, seems a little bit more fitting because it's a new name for a new fusion of the creature. Like taking the Wendigo, taking the Skinwalker stories, throwing a little bit more, throwing a few other things into the mix to make it creepier. And that we have a new entity, basically, that isn't quite what a Skinwalker is actually supposed to be in legend or folklore.
Yeah.
Just something I wanted to note because I'm starting to realize that like there are definitely some variations in the storytelling. But anyways, going back onto my notes. Yeah, going on to my notes. There's a handful of misplaced letters and missing words that come up. I wrote them down, like all the different ones, but I realized that there was...
Why did you bother?
Well, I also realized, like, I have to quote them, and I was like, no. I'm just like... I'm going
to be here.
Well, exactly. I'm just going to acknowledge it because, like, again, like, we are a show that discusses stuff, like, discusses the stories, but we also try to, like, provide some kind of help for authors and writers and stuff.
But
so...
The way I always see it is when I'm reading these, grammar and shit, that's good and stuff, but you can just look over it and that's fine. But the most important thing to me is the actual storytelling. And as long as it's giving the visual and following things properly, I don't care if they miss a comma or if they don't put an apostrophe.
Okay, yeah, no, I understand that. Now, I can't believe I'm actually saying this because this is usually Mikey, the E stands for evil, and Leviathan's forte.
Do it.
But yeah, basically, like I'm too of that opinion. Like I can read a story and not really care that much for the spelling and stuff like that, unless it's really bad.
Yeah.
But like from their point of view and like from like that point of view of like being like a writer and stuff like that, like it just smells kind of, it just feels kind of sloppy. Like when you see that in a story, like a lot of the time, like a bunch of them, like those errors and stuff like that.
You figure they proofread their own stuff.
Exactly, yeah. And like, if you want to like put the stuff out there, and I understand like sometimes the mentality for creepypastas is that like, oh well, I want to put it out there to see what people think and like criticism and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or just enjoy it. I get that, but like, yeah, like you care about writing this. You cared about writing the story to begin with. Why don't you care about like making it the best that you can be before you present it?
Yeah, I'm totally with you there.
Yeah, so like, and I do think that sometimes like there's some sentences that can be really clunky. Like again, the beginning one was.
I got a couple written down too that I haven't even gotten into.
Or run-on sentences, or so that. So I think it is still there is still a merit, despite the fact that I've like conflicted with the other guys about it on occasion on the show. That it does.
Like every time you bring me on, I always mention that it doesn't matter, and we always talk about it.
Well, it's because like,
I always call you a grammar Nazi every time,
which is hilarious because I'm usually on your side or on your end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
For the rest of the show, because I feel because they're not on the show, I have to kind of.
You have to be the dick now. Is that what you're saying?
I have to be the Garba Nazi. When no one will, I will have to be.
Of course.
Anyway,
terrible accents aside.
Yes. Yeah. So just wow. And again, I understand like the guy's also trying to emulate like an old American guy's sentencing, and it's just like it would be nice to have it still be like clear and be able.
Yeah,
to
because the thing is, he doesn't literally have like a perfect memory of it, or he's not showing us a recording of it where it's literally word for word what he said.
Yeah, so he can like, try and like, he can get some mannerisms in there. Like I'm fine with that, but like spell check, like literally some of the spell checks were literally coming up when I had it on Google Docs, like just like reading it and like putting in comments and stuff.
I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about the actual story wise, as in the guy is telling us the story that his father told him. So even if his father talked weird, he doesn't necessarily talk weird.
Yeah, no.
So you know what I'm saying? Like any of the weirdness that his father would have dialect-wise, he wouldn't necessarily express in the story.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's
because he's telling the tale, but
he's transcribing his father's story that he told him to try and like give some kind of emulation that it is like his father telling the story. But you should still like try and improve. Like if there's something that seems clunky or like it's not gonna like read well, you should try and like fix up that sentence.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, moving right along, another quote. Something had run upon... Well, right, yeah. Okay, that's another one with this one. It's like, he keeps using up on versus upon.
Oh.
And it kept throwing me off. But it is... I've
running up on someone.
Yeah, I've heard it before, and it's just like, I kept wanting to add in upon. Run upon.
No, that's wrong, actually.
Is it really?
Like, going upon something is like almost getting on top of something. Where, like, running up on someone is if I ran up on you and punched you.
I get you.
This is the difference.
I still want to say it because it's those two
words
like, merge. Yeah.
It's like this. If I ran up on you, I would be running up on you to punch you in the face. But if I ran upon you, I would be running over top of you to punch you in the face. Kind of thing,
Okay,
you know?
yeah.
I'd be like, that's the difference, I think.
Yeah.
I might be wrong. I'm probably wrong, but...
Well, I mean, the show is not nothing if not just opinions. And
Yes.
Yeah. So, something had run up on... Oh, my God.
Someone ran up on
Okay, hang on.
them.
Something had run up on a den of deer. So, I looked it up. Den is not a word, as far as I could find,
What
to
are you talking
describe
about?
a group of deer.
No, a den...
No. The way he writes it in it, like, it's not like they're in a den or something like that. Also, behavior... I also Wikipedia that up. Deer never go into dens.
Okay, but even if that's true... If it's, let's say these deer
what they
are
were-
weird, or these deer are weird and they have a den.
Okay, no.
If you're,
It's not the. That's. I'm sorry. Like, I'm gonna have to cut you off. That is not what the story is trying to say. It was trying to like give it like a group of deer of some kind. Like,
it could
using
be
group of
a
names.
place that they hang out at, a den. It's a den of deer. It's like, this house is your house.
Okay, we're gonna have to agree to disagree because I don't.
No, I'll agree that I'm right and you're wrong.
All right. Oh, you're gonna be that guy.
Yeah, of course.
Well, for me, for this, it's den is not a group. Like the way I'm interpreting it
As a group of deer.
is a group of deer, and that's not the word to use for it. Like groups of deer are named usually a herd, a leash, a gang, a brace, a clash, or a bevy.
Clash?
That's what I found.
Okay.
For bucks, usually, I guess, like a clash of bucks.
I suppose. But I thought of it as a den, as in, like, there's like a little
the way
cave that they're hanging out in.
I understand because I read that too, and I reread it a couple of times, and as far as I can tell, he was trying to describe a group, not them in an actual den.
Well, either way.
Yeah, so
It's kind of funny because all these things you're mentioning, you're bypassing all the things that I have to mention.
well, that's good because
actually,
that's good because then you can go in and like
Yeah.
add in. You have stuff to contribute. Another quote here: "Predators don't do that. They don't leave scraps. Yes, they do sometimes. Anyway, like
nothing.
if they eat
nothing noteworthy. It's the fact
if
that.
oh no, hang on, because if they've eaten like their fill, they usually leave a carcass, or
But it's basically picked clean.
also, or no, not all the time. Or some species of predator are actually have cruel behavior where they actually do kill for fun, like pine martens and
What the hell is that?
pine marten's like a muskrat, but it's like a lot more vicious. It's like a mix between a muskrat. It's like a wolverine. It's like the southern cousin of a wolverine.
Oh, okay.
They actually do kill for fun. They don't kill for food
Okay.
all the time.
Well, generally speaking, a hunter would know that generally a predator comes, kills something, they eat it, they basically pick it clean, and they leave. So seeing something that's not like that, just body parts everywhere, not eaten, that would be weird.
Yeah, I think it would be. Although if you're gonna have it like this is really fucked up, like and have like kind of up the ante because again this is kind of a supernatural story. Like just up the ante a little bit, like just have like all the parts there like scattered in like pattern maybe, but like nothing's been like eaten or like nothing's been taken.
That's what he basically said. He was
The
ripped
way
apart.
I got it was like some of the stuff had been eaten and dragged off, and like devoured, but like there were like a head here, like not all the parts were there. And I think like it would be creepier if it was like all the parts were there, and just like forming like a circle or something like that.
Well, that's the thing, if it's that intelligent.
Yeah.
I think the way it worked was fine because there's a lot of build-up thinking that, it's just a wild dog, like what they were saying, a feral dog. Because they led up to it, because if immediately they see weird shit, they're not necessarily going to continue further investigating and get murdered.
Unless they're even more horror movie antagonists or protagonists like they already are.
Exactly. So if they did it too weird from the get-go,
All right, yeah,
there has to be a build-up to, oh shit.
Yeah, I can understand that. I don't know. It's just like him just blanket stating that like predators don't do this. Like not all predators like. I'm sorry. Yeah, like some predators don't like always like eat their fill. Like
90% of
a
predators.
wild dog or a single wolf or a wild dog, because they only had like the prints for one animal, would not eat at like 5 fucking deer.
He also wouldn't bother killing 5 fucking deer. He would probably go after the weakest one, and the other ones would run away.
They mentioned that in the story.
Yes.
In the story, yeah.
He would kill one, eat, and he'd be good to go.
All right. Well, I don't know. Again, it was something that that irked me. That's why I brought it up. Can't wait to fucking stop you at your stuff.
You're not gonna stop me on anything. It all makes sense. None of your stuff makes sense.
Fuck you. You're off the show.
Okay, bye. See you later. Later, bro.
He's gone.
Okay, I'm back.
Damn it!
I got nothing better to do. Fuck it.
God damn it. Yeah. Okay. Here's another quote. Herd deer and fox and rabbits and raccoons and birds, just scared. Keep in mind, this is maybe 12 or 1 o'clock. Except the fox and birds, nothing was supposed to even be awake. Wrong again to me, because every animal you named was a nocturnal species. Every species he mentioned would be awake at that point, at night.
There'd be birds flying around making noise.
Owls.
Birds.
Owls is
Whoa.
what you... Okay, fine.
You're being
Deer,
Mr.
fox,
Actual
raccoon.
Factual here.
I'm sorry, no,
It's like you read this and then you go on Wikipedia. You're like, okay, I'm gonna look up all these animals. Are any of them nocturnal?
It's not fucking Wikipedia. It's just goddamn common sense.
Okay.
You and I both live out in the fucking sticks in a forested area.
I don't literally live out there in the tent though.
Yeah,
not
but
all the time.
we live in an area where we've been able to camp and stuff like that. Like we know what forest animals and stuff are like. This guy's like a longtime camper. He should know that all these animals are also all.
Are all of them? Let me see.
Yeah, every single one. He mentions deer, fox, rabbits, raccoons, birds, and that's it. Deer definitely are always always awake at night. Foxes are, and the rabbits have been known to. They don't always. It's not always, but raccoons definitely are nocturnal.
Raccoons, yeah.
And birds, birds.
Owls, yes, but
owls, yeah.
Standard ass birds, generic standard ass birds.
Crows. Well, ravens and stuff like that. I'm not saying all birds, but I mean again, like that, and that's another just blanket statement of like birds.
Yeah.
But so maybe like that he gets a pass with like birds, but other than that, like all the other animals were mentioned are pretty well.
But the point he was getting across is it was quiet.
I'm sorry,
or it was loud. It was too loud. That was
or
the
like
problem.
that they were all freaking out and running away.
They should have.
But like, especially when he says like, he mentions like all these animals, including raccoons and stuff, and then says except for the fox and some birds, nothing was supposed to even be awake. Raccoons.
You just went over this.
Yeah. So.
Yes.
Wow. It's one of the, it's weird. This is a weird topsy-turvy episode because usually I'm the one defending shit.
You are defending shit.
That's my beef with the whole him contradict himself with the nocturnal animals thing.
Yes. Continue.
Next quote.
I'm ready to fight you.
Next quote. The plan is to sneak up on. The plan is to sneak up on it.
What's so weird about that?
It throws me off every fucking time.
On it?
Upon it.
You said on it. Is it on it or upon
it? Okay, I'm gonna try it again.
On it?
I'm gonna try it again. The plan is to sneak up on it while it's eating, shoot it, and then keep shooting it till it don't move anymore, then slit its throat. So my reaction, my gut reaction at the beginning, like right after reading that sentence, was like a bit excessive by the end there, but then Merca.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's like and then next quote to segue into that, if it gets to Dad, it's my job to shoot. It's my job to shoot or stab it to get it off him.
Yes.
And then my response, thing for that is, that's going to go over well. Again, Merca.
Yeah.
And then update, because after I was finished reading the story, it's like, oh, that went about as well as I expected.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All things considered at the end of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was just like, I was like, just the whole like...
I hear you.
Well, we're going to shoot it. We're going to shoot it until it stops breathing. Then we're going to slit its throat. It's like, that's a little excessive. Like, I mean, double tap, I guess.
When it's something that fucked up.
But they weren't expecting it to be that fucked up. Like, my counter to that is that they were not expecting it to be something
That's very true. I'll give you
up
that.
until that point.
But...
They were just like, let's just shoot some more, and then maybe try to have
just kill it, and they will kill it until they die from it.
Exactly. Moving on to this one. In less than 2 paragraphs... Oh, yeah, this is another grammar Nazi thing.
Oh, here we go.
In less than 2 paragraphs, and there were other instances of this.
Of course.
I saw 3 indiscrepancies of tense. Like, the words tears and throws instead of tearing and throwing when it was past tense otherwise in the paragraph, and it was like 3 times in the same like paragraphs.
But the thing is, all this stuff happened in the past.
Yeah, so we should, but but it was like it tears out like flesh and throws it away. Like it should be tearing out the flesh and throwing it away, because at tears is a present tense versus a past tense. Again,
I don't see that much of a problem with that, honestly.
The other guys would hate you.
That's fine.
Story.
I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah,
they can hate me all they want.
yeah. Again, it's just I'm trying to help the right whoever like the writing
I
process.
totally understand. I'm just saying I personally don't have a problem with it.
Oh yeah.
Because I didn't even see that as a problem. Again, you've been glossing over all the stuff.
Well, then that's good, because you have stuff to add to this. All right, so this one's kind of more of a funny thing for me.
Okay.
He got a shot off. I think he missed. If he hit the thing, it didn't mind. So, to that quote, Game Grumps has ruined me for people saying shooting and missing as a line in anything.
Yeah, me too.
Forever.
Totally.
Because I couldn't not say it's like, he got it. He got a shot off. I think it missed. I ended up and then like in my mind I was like, did he fall down in the snow and wake up with a popsicle stick in his mouth?
Yes, of course.
Fucking goddamn it!
Yeah, I thought the exact same thing.
Nothing to do with the story really at all. Because like that paragraph, that sentence otherwise is fine. It's just Game Grumps, like YouTube pop culture stuff is just kind of ruined.
If you haven't seen it, go on YouTube, search up Game Grumps shot and missed.
We'll leave a link in the description below.
Yep.
Even though they really don't need any attention from us.
Doesn't matter. It's hilarious. Anyone who hasn't experienced that needs to.
Yeah. Another quote. He tells me that hand never made it back to the station. The cop who had it in his car wrecked, drove into a tree, died on impact. The hand was never found, probably taken away by an animal. So, with regards to the Goatman story we did last week, that's how the car part of that story should have gone down. Basically, the Goatman story last week for you.
For me and anyone else who hasn't
gone back. Which, by the way, like if you're a listener to this and you haven't, go check that out. That was a good episode.
Exactly.
Basically, the Goatman. After listening to some guys tell spooky stories at a campfire, they go bugger off back into town on their car, and they don't have an extra room for this guy who they just think is like a guy who came out of the desert, like some poor schluck.
Yeah.
So as they're driving away, it turns into a monster, runs like up to their car, basically catches up to the car, flips the car, and drags them out into the desert.
Okay.
And this is a story being told by people like it's a campfire story being told like basically where there were no survivors to tell the story, except for the monster. And it was like this made a lot more sense for like him to like go after that car thing, because again this kind of ties into a little bit for the Skinwalker stuff is that because the reason about the Goatman story, which is kind of tied to the Skinwalker stuff, is that they go after if something is taken from them, like the remains of like one of their bodies or something like that, or like a bone or a horn or something like that, or a photograph or something like that, is taken by somebody, they wait outside their house and wait till the person leaves, then they ransack the house and trying to find the item. Basically repossess their item.
Yeah.
And basically that would have made... but the car scene in that story made no sense because it was like... They tell us all that stuff about the legend.
Yes.
But nothing was taken, so why did this monster freak out and trash the car?
Just because he wanted to.
Yeah, basically, yeah. He was just
but now it makes sense.
Now, this part, like that, if they had incorporated this kind of thing for that story, it would have made more sense.
Yes.
But
also, I didn't think of it that way. That when the hand was taken, that the cop was driving away, and then the Wendigo/Skinwalker attacked the cop to get it back. For some reason, I thought of it like him just driving with the hand either did something psychological to him, where
or the hand just like thinged itself,
or it just thinged him in the neck.
I like that. That's a verb. It just thinged him.
It is now.
Thank you, Adam's family, for giving us thing.
Yes, of course. I figured it was something like that. I didn't ever think that maybe he was still alive and he happened to know exactly where his hand was somehow and attacked the cop.
Well, yeah, I figured like the creature basically like that's like they covered up the car crash basically.
Yeah.
It just thinged him. Yeah, so that's that part. This next one's with regards to getting answers from the FBI. So here's the quote. Before he got up and left with the rest of his team, he wrote "The Rake" onto a napkin. I didn't know what it meant until I searched for it on the internet. Honestly, I would have rather not known. this is a better. Okay, so this is also tied into like basically the story as a whole. This is a better and honestly more coherent Rake story than the original pasta for the Rake, because basically the original Rake story. I tried to get you to read it, but like
I didn't have time. I was busy being a ninja.
Basically, the original Rake story tried to tie in all these documents or like really short like excerpts of entries and stuff like that from like journals and stuff through history about this creature called the Rake. That is basically like a creature that comes up to you, like stalks you and then basically makes you disappear after or like kills you
For reasons.
Yeah, much in the same way as like the Skinwalker creature in this story. But the way it was written, like with all the different excerpts, there's no real connection. Like there's no real like tie. Like it's really hard to actually like connect the dots. This story here has a more coherent like way of like giving you like kind of giving the Rake, which is a creature created from the internet. Like we in our episode of the Rake, go check it out. We discussed that it was actually like created by 4chan's like paranormal monsters threads, basically trying to create a new spooky monster. And so this one kind of helps like ingrain it into reality and like or human history by like giving us like this like a creature that's similar to like the Wendigo or something like that. Having this these people being attacked by it for years, like or like these woods that just like people disappear in, and the FBI seems to be covering it up, kind of giving us like a sense of conspiracy of what's going on. And actually, that's another thing that we should bring up. When do you think, like, how old do you think this guy is? Like, because when I first started reading the story, I thought that it was, like, at least in, like, the 60s or 50s. And then I kind of start to realize that maybe it was in the 80s, like, when it happened.
It was probably early internet time.
And that's just, I don't mean the narrator. I mean his dad and his grandfather.
That's what I mean. Because he was talking about how his dad never was into internet and stuff. So, if it was
it would have to be, like, 90s or something. Like, and it was just like... Well, then what war was your dad in? Like, I guess maybe his dad was in, like, could be in the Korean War, the Vietnam War, or something like that.
He could have been any war. He could have been friggin' 70 or 80.
I know, but when I first read it, I instantly went to, like well, he also said it was an early, like, the beginning of the story mentions that it was, like, an older, for some reason, at the beginning of the story, I had a sense that it was in the 40s. The story was actually taking place in the 40s or 50s.
Nah.
Because, like, again, like, his dad was from the war, like, from one of the wars, and I instantly went to, like, World War I or World War II.
It could have been anything. Could have been
it's just, like, it seemed like like, as I kept reading, the story itself, I started, clarifying that it was, like, going down down basically, like, earlier, or, like, later and later into the 20th century.
So essentially, if it was like 19... When was the actual pasta released? I didn't look at
that. It's kind of hard to find out sometimes. I'm not really sure myself. So if I had to guess, probably between like within the last couple of years.
All right, so let's be generous and say recently, let's be generous and say 2010.
Okay,
just to be safe. So that's 20 years roughly from when the story was told to him, or when the narrator. When the narrator's father had this happen to him. So, and he was 14 at the time.
13
at the time. So he'd be roughly 32.
Yeah.
At the time that he told the son.
Yeah.
I think. And then he died then?
And then he went off into the woods and...
So he had a son at 32, and he told the story to the son.
Well, he had the son at some point in between, in that 20 years. But then the son, like...
So he told the son probably at like 10?
Yeah, well, he told the son like multiple times, like over the course of like his life.
Just to scar this child while he's still a little kid.
And he just never believed him, right? Like that's until he when he went missing, and then the FBI did their cursory thing, and he I guess went to the bar with when the FBI guys were there and got them drunk, and then like gave them a couple of 50s to find out what the truth was. Like, that's why, like, it seems weird. It seems there's some inconsistencies. What it seems like, cause I'm not usually a proponent for giving us like super in depth detail on like time period, on like time and stuff like that. But give us something, because it feels like again, like we were having an issue like trying to figure out when the story was actually taking place.
Yeah, because he's 13
when the thing happens, and
he was 13 with internet accessible at the time. So that already puts a very, like, a specific date.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he has to grow up since then to be able to tell it
to his son,
yes,
or daughter, and the son or daughter has
to be old enough
to
be able to go to a bar
and get these and like buy drinks and stuff like that for the FBI agent. Yeah,
so it has to be like 40 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to think. Like that's why I was thinking. Like it was like this happened in like the 50s or
maybe
60s.
the story was being told in the future.
Well, no,
that would make sense.
Well, no, because like the narrator's thing. Like I'm fine with the narrator like being like in the modern time, because like that's again, like his or her dad never knew what the internet was, or didn't really work on the internet, so that means he's an old timer, which means usually like they were around since like it had to have happened like 40 or so years ago, so like at least in like the 70s
there wasn't
or
internet
60s.
40 years ago.
Well, you know, exactly. And and there was no internet. Like there's no internet mentioned with the father's story. There's phones, which does kind of make sense.
He said, the narrator said that his father said that his father wasn't big into internet.
No. It was his.
The narrator said that his father,
yes,
the surviving father from the incident, wasn't big into internet.
Yes, because the grandfather, and the father is telling the narrator about the grandfather's death, like how he lost his.
Yes.
How the narrator lost his grandfather.
So
it's confusing to me.
Technically, it could be at any time, because he could have been a kid, and then internet came out later after the event.
No.
So it could be at any time, honestly.
Yeah, it's an issue with the story, like in terms of like trying.
I never thought about it reading it, but since discussing with you, I'm like, when did it take place?
Yeah,
I understand.
And like I basically from the beginning, like as I was reading the story, I was like when what like I kept jumping a decade or two just to figure out when this was going on.
Also, before I forget, because you mentioned this before, he said that the narrator said that his father called it. No, did his father call it, or the grandpa call it Skinwalker?
His father.
But his father was told it was called the break by the FBI guy.
No. He was the narrator.
He was. We need names
because exactly, and that's another thing that there's an issue with Creepypasta is that we almost never get the narrator's name.
Okay, son, father, grandfather.
Yes.
Okay, so
son
was told by the FBI that it's called the rake.
Yeah, and when he went online, and that's why he's recounting the story.
Okay.
That
his father told him. He's called it a Skinwalker all this time
because of an old Cherokee.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I know. Yeah.
Okay, continue.
Okay. Yeah, so we have that whole thing, and like again, why like we get this story makes a little bit, despite that like weird consistency, this story is still a little bit more coherent than the original Rake story that we did on the show. Also, so despite that though, I don't see the reason to call this a Skinwalker story, because like
Rake.
Yeah, because it's more or less a Wendigo story or like just a Rake story. Like it just straight up calls it the Rake. And the only reason it's called Skinwalker is because the old American guy thought it was heard of the name Skinwalker in like some Indian story,
and he just assumes it's this.
Yeah, that's what I'm guessing.
But did he have anything to go on to go? I want to call this a Skinwalker. Also, why is it called
like the word Skinwalker? Kind of gives it like a hint that
he's wearing someone else's skin,
or it transforms from something.
He doesn't know it does that.
Yeah, but like I feel again, and you're in Ohio. Like I'm surprised. Like if you're hearing like Indian stories, you would be hearing Wendigo stories more than Skinwalker stories.
Yeah,
it's a plot hole. It's definitely a flaw in the story.
Yeah.
The story should have been called something like The Rake or The Wendigo or something like that, or like How I Lost My Grandfather.
Yeah.
You'll never believe what happens next. Other than that, though, I like the first part of the story because it's just really a fun monster attack story.
Yeah,
like, almost like the plot of a good old B horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
The last bit of is actually gives the impression of a conspiracy of within the law enforcement knowing something's wrong in this area, or maybe even the government going as high up as the government knowing.
Yeah.
But they're not doing anything really about it except for doing cursory things and trying to cover it up. There's this air of mystery and conspiracy that was really only meekly attempted in the original Rake story, so I gotta give it a pass on that at the very least, because I liked it for like being a better Rake story.
Yeah, is that considered a conspiracy? Even if let's say they were covering it up just because they don't want the public to panic. Is that technically still a conspiracy?
Yep.
Is it?
Conspiracies
just because
are
it's just not telling the truth?
Yeah, conspiracies are by their term, you're conspiring to withhold information from someone
for whatever means, be it good or bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we could go into a conversation about what conspiracies
We
are.
don't need to do
Yeah.
that. But yes, I understand now. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll do recommendations for this one after we do the other one because
I still have notes to talk about.
Oh right, yeah, shit. Sorry.
Every single thing you've said,
Holy shit.
I was totally
All
fine
right.
with. Everything you
Okay.
said, I had no problem with reading through.
All right.
And everything I said, I have notes on. You probably were like, I was totally fine with.
Let's find out. Let's find this out. So, what do you, Gamer in Yellow, have to say about this story?
Well, as soon as he started talking about the story, immediately the son is telling the story that his father said to him. So the father was telling the son immediately, we. He kept saying, we were doing this, we were doing that. I had to read through a bunch of the story to realize that he was a kid with his father. At the start, it was just we. He just kept saying, we were doing this, we were doing that.
I did hear like a couple of times
Later on,
like, he said, I thought early on he says like he was 13 and like hid with his dad and stuff like
No,
that.
I saw that later on. Maybe I missed it, but I don't think so. But from the get-go, it sounded like we. So it sounded like we were going hunting. So immediately I was thinking, okay, this guy's 20 or 30, going out with probably 3 or 4 friends.
And
that's
then
what
you
I
find
immediately
out that
thought. And then it went down, and like, okay, he's 12 going out with 3 or 4 friends, one being his father. Then later on, oh, okay, it's just him and his father.
I didn't get that at all, dude.
I don't know. It just wasn't clearly shown to me that him and his father were going out on a hunting trip by themselves.
Well, no, because at the beginning he mentions like his he mentions the whole thing about like the rake like early on, and then like that's not the name his dad called it. He called it the Skinwalker after an old Cherokee story.
Yes.
And then he'd tell me the story about his about how I lost my grandfather.
But again,
and it was like,
that story could have happened when he was 20 or 30, going out with his grandfather with his friends.
But I remember also the 13-year-old thing being mentioned like in like the first couple of paragraphs.
I don't know. I saw it later on because I know I was reading through. I was like, whoa, okay, he's that age now. Okay. So that was just weird to me. I didn't understand.
Fair enough. I don't recall that at all. Yeah.
Again, I don't know, different ways of reading it, I guess.
Yeah.
And then later on, I have a quote here. Blood everywhere. Thought it was coyotes. We'd seen it sometimes. They can't scavenge and start hunting deer or cattle. The worst was when they mate with feral dogs, but this wasn't like that. Explain that to me.
Let me read that.
That's
again.
a quote.
Let me read that. Okay, hang on.
That's a quote right there. Read that.
Blood everywhere. Thought it was coyotes. We'd seen it sometimes. They can't scavenge and start hunting deer or cattle. The worst was when they
breed. That's autocorrect.
Okay. The worst was when they breed with feral dogs, but this wasn't like that.
That was a quote. Explain that to me. I had to read it 5 or 6 times. I'm like, what is being said here? I understand it's bad when coyotes breed with feral dogs because it makes them worse and shit. But what is the rest of it?
I think that was maybe what they were trying to get across was that like the blood and like the frenzy and some of that was like definitely something sick had done this.
I understand that, but they can't scavenge and start hunting deer or cattle.
Yeah.
I don't understand. It's just a confusing sentence to me.
Well, because coyotes and stuff like that are scavenger animals usually, and if they can't find like dead meat, they make.
Why can't they scavenge and start hunting deer or cattle? It was just literally.
If they can't find find carrion, they go after live food.
This is literally right when they find the area with the blood everywhere because there's blood everywhere. Thought it was coyotes. We'd seen it sometimes. They can't scavenge and start hunting deer or cattle.
Yeah.
I just don't understand that sentence. It was weird.
It just seems like to me it sounds like they're saying that like he'd seen it be like the old man and the father,
the grandfather
and the father had seen it before, or at least the grandfather had seen it before with coyotes. Like when they can't find like carrion or like something to eat, they'll go after like live stuff like coyotes or like deer and whatnot, and that's what they'll hunt. And so like basically it becomes a bloodbath because they're ripping apart.
So
and then the bottom thing, it seems like they're just talking about like how this is a really like sick kind of situation, like and like maybe it's because they've gone to a frenzy because they're inbred with like some other species.
Okay, so I guess to make it make sense, it would be we've seen it sometimes. If they can't scavenge, they start hunting deer or cattle.
See, that makes sense.
That sounds like
a grammar Nazi thing to me.
Grammar's one thing. If the sentence doesn't make sense,
or if it's clunky, which is what I've said earlier.
Clunky's one thing. If you read a sentence and you're like, "What did that even say?"
No, I'm just joking. I'm just joshing with you right there. But like, yeah, no, like, I agree with you. Like
Yes.
the story that sentence is very clunky because the way we read because it's two or three sentences there that don't really. There needs to be some extra things in there to like make it work better.
Yeah, essentially. The next thing I have is my realization that he was with his father, and he is young. I remember my dad telling me to go home. He thought it was a pack of feral dogs. That's when I realized that he was with his father, and he is a kid.
Yeah.
That point. And then later on, he says, I've been in a lot of woods in my life. I've been all over the world. This is what the father told the son in the story. Okay?
Yeah.
So he's saying that 13-year-old me has been all over the world and seen some shit.
You misunderstand. The way I read that, like, I was confused by that too, but the way I interpret that is that the noise that he heard was he's never been able to figure out what he's never been able to like find another animal in the world because he's gone out he went to the military, he's done probably some tours
as in since that
yes. Yeah, like again it's another clunky thing where like I've seen some stuff in my time and nothing has ever been close to what I heard. That
it was funny when I first read it because I was thinking, wait, is this 13-year-old kid putting like a cigar in his mouth and like loading an AK, like I've seen some shit. You know,
pulls out the 22, just
of course, yeah.
Yeah,
it was weird. And then this other part I got here is when they track him and they find that it's at the destroyed church. Was it?
It's a schoolhouse.
Schoolhouse, right? It says. Figured maybe that was it. Maybe it was some sick kid riding a high because they were saying that
they
maybe
were junkies or like
it's that, but. Would drugs be able to give you superpowers to be able to rip deer in half and to be able to carry it very far away and to run through wherever you want and leave your tracks so it's just leaving a little imprint as if you're only 70 pounds instead of the 200-pound person you are?
They're horror movie.
And also the other part is they've been following footprints this whole time.
Yeah.
So considering one of them...
They should know it's human.
That's what I'm going to say. Considering one of them is a seasoned hunter, I'm assuming, not the 13-year-old kid, you figure he would be able to look at the track and go, is this an animal or is this a person?
Yeah, no, that's... unless they're... Well,
later on, they say that it's tracks of 4, but they didn't specify.
Yeah, that's really true. Yeah, there's no like the track because I kind of centered on the fact that the tracks were light, so that maybe you couldn't discern them. But like even if that's
you'd be able to tell the difference between a wolf and a human foot.
Yeah, exactly. Like
and if it's running on 4s,
unless you're really just unless their trail, the trail they're like following is basically the blood, which is I thought that's what
it kept saying. Following. No, because it specifically said the tracks we were following were very shallow, showing that it's less than 100 pounds.
Yeah.
So it's literally imprints in dirt.
Yeah, so it should not be.
So it's either
it's a big plot hole is basically what we can take from that. Also, with regards to your comment about the druggy thing,
yes.
I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure like LSD and like acid and shit like that could probably like screw you up like that, like to basically take away some of your inhibitors,
to give you superhuman power to be able to rip a head off of a deer.
Again, I'm not like I'm thinking for like drugs from that time probably like make you like. Again, some drugs like turn off your inhibitors, so you can like do a lot more than you should be able to do, and it's gonna wreck you.
Okay,
but you can do that. However, also to also answer to a more modern thing, bath salts can do that.
Okay,
because bath salts basically create make you a zombie basically. Like if you look on like in current news, like or current events and stuff like that, like little circa like a year or so ago, somebody on bath salts ripped out their own intestines and like threw them at or took huge chunks of their flesh off of their stomach and stuff like that and started hucking them at police.
Oh, fantastic! So it's like that scene in Ricky O.
Oh yeah, no.
And then he pulls his intestines out and chokes him with it.
Except no knife, just like rips out his own intestines
fatality
with his
style.
hand.
Okay, but
so
the other thing I gotta say about that, he killed multiple deer.
Yeah.
So, okay, if it's a crazy guy running at a pack of deer, he might grab one and take it down, but the other ones would run.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So how did he murder all of them if it's just a human?
Or to that degree, if that's what they're considering, why aren't they not going the other way around?
Yeah, you'd figure at some point here they'd be turning around, but that aside...
again, horror movie logic is kind of strong with this story.
Okay, then my next part is when they get to the monster.
Yeah.
And they see it eating. Okay.
And they actually see that it's just naked, a weirdly like immaculate, like
with claws.
emaciated, naked dude, like almost like an ape-like posture and
with literal claws. Okay, the kid who is the father of the narrator, he sees the monster visible enough that he can describe it perfectly. So he can see it's not just a human. Plus, it's eating a raw carcass right now, so it's fucked up.
Yeah.
But the father, he obviously can see it that clearly too, but he still goes, ahem, sir, pardon me.
So, madam.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
You'd figure when you'd see that, even if it's humanoid, it's literally described as a monster sitting there feeding on a raw carcass.
Yeah.
You would not go, ahem, can I use your phone, kind sir? And get immediately murdered.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, like, it's a human figure, like, you don't want to shoot that person or some of that, but at the same time, like, there's something wrong with that person, like, I don't know what...
There's two options.
Okay, what are your two options for that? Like,
my two options are not go, ahem. My two options are, one, back away slowly, very quietly, because he obviously the rake did not see them show up. So they could have easily backed up and just went, I'm out.
Yep.
I'm out of here. Nope.
Right out.
Or the other option is, you look to your son and you go, on 3, we shoot. 1, 2, 3. And just shoot it immediately.
3, 2, 1, get her! Just like that scene's going to end up like that. But yeah, no, my first instinct for that would probably be number 1, which is just like noping right the fuck
you nope
out.
the fuck out. If you have the firepower, you shoot it. But...
as we found out, shooting was not really good.
Yeah, but in that situation as a hunter, you'd be either you shoot it immediately when something fucked up like that, or you leave. Yeah. That's what I personally would do, but whatever. It adds to the drama. Then this quote, which got explained later, is, but somehow my dad's knife ends up in this thing's shoulder. This is when it's being attacked by him.
Yeah.
And my dad ends up on my back.
And he's carting around.
So what I understand. What I immediately thought when I read that was, what? What happened there? So the dad's knife gets stabbed into the shoulder, and his dad's knife also gets stabbed into his back too? Or was it his dad managed... Or his dad stabbed him, and his dad's mangled corpse literally got thrown onto the son's back.
The way I heard it was like basically... no, hang on. Let me just...
Fine.
Sorry.
Go.
My interpretation for that was that the kid in like blind rage, in blind like panic or like defending of his father, grabbed the knife, stabbed the creature, and then next thing he knew, he had his dad on his back, like trying to get him away.
Oh, like he kind of blacked out?
Exactly, he blacked out. Basically.
No, that's not how
snapshot.
That's entirely possible. But what I saw it as, him fighting the father fighting. Sorry, granddad fighting with the monster. Got a knife into its neck, like into its shoulder.
Yeah.
And at some point, the monster realized, like, the son was uselessly attacking it, and it threw the dad's corpse at the son.
Okay.
That's what I immediately saw, and I was actually right. Because you missed that.
Oh, no. I didn't miss that. I was, like, wondering, well, how the hell is this kid, like, firemanning his dad away?
Yeah, that's my next point.
And then and then at the end, and then we get, like, the revelation is like, oh, you tried it, son. You tried.
Yeah, and then, so I find out later that, yes, he's been running with half of his father's head, his father's arms, and his torso, but no legs, on his back for half a mile, running faster than the monster, and describing, the kid was describing that he was running faster than he ever has been. Running with 200 pounds on his back.
Fear and adrenaline is a hell of a drug.
I guess, but Jesus.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make... it's... Again, movie horror. This whole story kind of reeks of horror movie, like logic.
Yeah.
And I like it for that, but at the same time, there are some like logic problems with it. Like the way I picture it is like the kid thought he was rescuing his dad, but basically he was in shock.
Yeah.
And was actually just carrying part of his dad and like enough that.
Oh, he was dead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it said later that even when they got to the camp,
oh yeah, he was
still trying to save his dad, even though the adults were like, he's dead. Yeah, we have to go.
He was in shock, yeah.
Yeah. And then, actually, at the landlord's place, they mentioned that the dog gets attacked. I was so sad, but they mentioned the dog gets attacked and thrown through the window. So, a few things here. the kid running from the forest screaming
Yeah.
didn't set the dog off to start barking.
Yeah.
The monster running through the forest didn't set the dog out from barking.
Yeah.
The monster attacking the dog didn't set the dog off from barking.
Yeah.
And the owner, at seeing all this fucked up shit, didn't grab his dog and bring it in.
That part is like probably the most like logistical thing in that entire thing, because the way I read that was like, so the creatures like they barricade out inside the house
And leave the dog outside.
Well, hang on, because we know nothing of a dog.
Yeah, they didn't even mention a dog.
Exactly. So like,
That's what I'm-
hang on. They're in their house barricading it, and they see the creature like roaming around out near the fireplace,
Yes.
or the fire pit, and then the dog gets flying in without its head or limbs, just the torso of the dog, and I'm like, man, that fucking rake is fast.
Very fast.
He's just
like Sonic.
God damn it.
But yeah, I just found that weird that there was no
it
mention
was-
of the dog until the dog's corpse was thrown
It was
in.
just like, let's throw a dog in this. For some
Yeah, just
reason.
let's make everyone feel bad.
Yeah, basically.
Like basically what I would have done there is I was running towards the landlord's house. The dog was barking at me, and it alerted the landlords that I was coming, and he found us, and blah
Yeah.
blah blah. You know, it was weird that it was thrown in so late.
Yeah.
It was weird. I don't get
was.
it. And then my last note is just why was it called Skinwalker?
Yeah. Like I said.
But again, the father didn't know. But what would even make him think, I want to call this a Skinwalker?
Exactly.
I
Like,
don't
aside
get
from
it.
the fact that it's like, it's an old Native American legend, but like it's the wrong geography.
It's almost like he didn't research anything about the legend. He just heard the word of the monster. He's like, I'll just use that as my monster.
Actually, to put in some things, because I've actually looked up like Skinwalker stuff. Because again, Skinwalkers have a whole subreddit and stuff like that online. Like, and
Of different versions.
I googled up, actually, like typed in like Skinwalker without actually putting in creepypasta.
Yeah.
And the first couple of like links were Skinwalker sighting stories,
Yeah.
and basically photos of what is essentially the rake. What
Yeah.
is essentially what you're perceiving this creature to be.
Mm-hmm.
So there's. And again, it's just something that's been added on to the online legend of Skinwalker stuff.
Yeah.
Is this like creepy, subhuman like monster that like pops up on those deer camera photos?
Mm-hmm.
Like those cameras that like pick up like that
Yeah.
take a photo when motion happens.
Yeah.
So I think what it is that that's probably where the author got the name for, was like, oh well, I'm gonna like so people have been kind of like trying to come up with the rake with the Skinwalker. I'm gonna do that, but for the in story method, like again, you're in Ohio, cultural geography speaking.
Yeah.
You should like there probably would have been like again the Wendigo or some kind of other boogeyman or something like that. In the woods, or like the wild man, or like the weird man, or something like that in the woods.
Yeah. Especially since his father wasn't into internet. So
well, no, I'm not thinking about the internet. I'm also thinking like from like what he would have heard like in like the area, like from like other huntsmen and stuff like that.
That's what I'm saying.
Would have been something.
Because he hasn't sat around looking on the internet for things.
Yeah.
It was just people telling him things.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it would be regional stuff around him.
Exactly, yeah. And
Totally.
again, you're in Ohio, like near the Great Lakes area and some of that. That's ripe like territory for Wendigo stories.
Yep.
So again, the story should have been called Wendigo, not Skinwalker.
Yeah, basically.
We are not dealing with a Skinwalker in the story,
No, not
except
at all.
for the fact that the author has looked up break stuff and found Skinwalker stuff because of those photos that people have like done mock-ups and stuff of.
yeah.
All right.
So that's essentially everything. That's all I got to put in.
Wow.
See, I was sitting there waiting patiently, going, yeah, huh, yeah, okay, oh, really? Because everything you said, I didn't have a problem with. And everything I had a problem with, you didn't say anything about.
Yeah, because I really like. no, I had some. I said I defended some. I had some.
No,
issues with it.
after I mentioned it, I mean, you saying all of
yeah,
the
I know,
things,
yeah.
you didn't say anything on my list.
Yeah,
Oddly
no,
enough.
that's true. Yeah,
that's weird.
Yeah, well, again, like that's why that's why we're a discussion podcast, because we have different opinions and different
Yes.
views that we like, different things that we spot where other people wouldn't.
Yeah, for sure.
So the next story,
Oh, yeah, we're done with this, by the way.
yeah, we'll
That's the end of that one.
Yeah, we'll do the
Recommendations later?
We'll do recommendations after we've done the next one.
Okay. Which is shorter, don't worry.
Yeah, it's so much shorter.
I literally don't have any notes on it. I think I have one.
So the next one is called Skinwalkers, and it's by Kamen Rider Chrome on Creepypasta Wiki. There's no readings of it as far as I could find. Basically, the rundown of it is a brief sum over of the Skinwalker legend, and about how someone can become one, which is more closely related to the actual like legends that that are like from the Navajo people than I think any other one I've seen online and stuff for the story.
Oh, really?
Like
This is the
it's
closest
actually
one?
closest to the like like the actual legend
Yeah.
origin of the story rather than the internet one.
Yeah.
Then we cut to two brothers, Jason and Alex, who, as adults, go out camping into the woods near the property of the supposed Skinwalker. Jason is married and has a family, and Alex is at home stayed at home and is tending to mom and dad, and is racking up the good points to go to heaven.
Yes, of course.
For some reason, that was added in there. Anyway, while out in the woods and lying under the stars, a bunch of woodland creatures approach them and watch them one after the other, like
a squirrel would show up and just stare at them.
and then stare at them for a while, then leave, and then a bigger
Like a
animal.
rabbit.
Eventually, it gets down to a gray wolf that appears, and then graphically transforms into a man. He's the Indian priest Skinwalker mentioned at the very beginning of the story, and he smiles demonically at the two men. After becoming more demonic, like
His skin
coal
turns
black, and his
with
eyes become
awesome yellow eyes.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
Becoming Satan himself, practically. He chases the men to his cabin where they find the corpses of all the other animals that they've seen previously, and even some humans. The Skinwalker then traps them there, and we cut away to when officials find the men's bodies in the camp or the cabin sometime later. And Alex also appears on security footage several states over at a gas station, and he has the same demonic smile on him.
Mm-hmm.
Dun dun end.
Yes.
So, like I said, really short, kind of more of a summarized story than anything, and that's kind of part of my notes of it. First quote, start off with a quote. A man becoming a beast was probably the most ridiculous imaginable. I think thing has to be between ridiculous and imaginable.
Starting off with grammar. Okay.
Yep. Dude, it's always going to happen.
Okay, but see, my problem with that sentence is there's a lot of things more fucked up that are imaginable than that. That's not the most,
Yeah, again, blanket statement.
Yeah.
It was getting dark, and the two were laying. Oh, this is another grammar one. Sorry.
Go ahead. Get it all out. Get it all out.
It was getting dark, and the two were laying out under the stars. Laying should be lying, technically. But, anyways, this one's also if you think those ones were nitpicks, this one's the most nitpicky.
Oh, great! I'm gonna be real happy. Just wait outside.
He's getting close to dead. It just sounds better if it's like he's getting close to death.
Yeah.
Also, Jesus.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought. Is like, dude, this is your father.
Yeah.
It's like he's getting close to dead. Whatever. I don't give a shit about him. That's what the kind of mentality I got off of it.
And you know what? That's kind of the mentality of this entire fucking story is just glossing over things and like. But anyways, so the legend at the beginning is actually closer to the legend of the Navajo, like I said. But there's also a lot of Christian imagery in the story, and terminology in the story. Like they call it Indian priest rather than like a shaman or even a witch. Satan, like they describe his final like demonic form as like Satan himself. It just kind of like it felt kind of off with the creature and its nature. Like the whole.
Because it's not a Christian monster.
It's a Native American. It's basically like you're trying to tell this Native American monster story. And I'm only speculating this. I don't know at all for sure, but I feel like the writer's probably like a teenager and probably like a heavily Christian person themselves, and that's why it's in there. So basically, I feel like it would, personal opinion, it would probably work better without those terms. Like find some other like words for it. Like again, like Indian shaman or like witch. How
would you describe his voice differently?
Like demonically is fine. Like I'm fine with demonic because that's not.
So your whole problem is the priest part,
or Satan, and so like because like it's like Satan himself, or like, that's. I mean,
I think that was a pass.
Again, like, or just change it. Don't make it a Skinwalker story. Just make it like make it some kind of a more creative demon creature that you've come up.
That's the thing. This is more of a Skinwalker story than the last one, though. So
I know
it should be a Skinwalker story.
For me, it's a fickle subject on that. Like,
okay.
Also, I don't know if it was you, but I kind of got the idea that Alex might have been a little slow. But it's really, I'm not sure if it's that or just because of how little we know about these characters at all. And that's
at the start where they you start the story mid-sentence or mid-conversation.
Yeah.
Because at the start it's like, what?
Because
he wasn't...
like he's just not paying attention.
Because of that, I thought it was going to be completely different. Because he was kind of distant and the animals were walking up being, whoa. I thought they were like, he was the Skinwalker.
Oh, that would have been good!
That's what I originally thought.
That would have been amazing!
Because the animals were like, there's something up here. And he's not paying attention. I figured he brought... Because at the start, they said... to be a Skinwalker, you have to become a priest and kill one of your own. He's out in the middle of nowhere with one of his own.
Yeah.
So I figured
oh my god.
I figured he was going to kill his brother and become the Skinwalker.
And no, that's not what we got at all.
Well, I didn't write it, unfortunately.
That again, like, well, sometimes on the show we come up with a better or like an alternative part for the story. This was, and then that's another thing about this. This was way too short and skimmed through to really grasp onto anything. Like the transformation sequence, like from the wolf to the man, like was really solid. Actually,
it was described quite well.
It's honestly the best thing of the story is that transformation sequence, like the description and stuff of that, and the idea of the ending, like the revelation, like all the Alex has been basically the creatures taking over Alex's form.
Yes,
is really cool as well. Mm-hmm. But there's not enough here. Like we need to know more about the prep for the camp, or like the journey into the woods to go camping. We need to know a little bit more about the brothers, like their dichotomy, their connection to each other. Like we need to have a little bit more conversation with them. It's not just like cut halfway through, like half a conversation and like what? Because we're like what?
Basically, it's kind of funny you say that though, because in the last story there were no names. Oh, no descriptions at all.
But this one like does names, but then there's not anything really there. Like I know more about the son and father than I know about Jason and Alex.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Like because there's more like there's more connection, like detail and like attention to detail and stuff on like the characters themselves, there's more character development in Skinwalker than there is in Skinwalkers.
There's more time to do it.
They just basically, and that's the problem. Like they just wrote out barely a page of content.
You know, Skinwalker is a movie. Skinwalkers is a trailer.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Because it just rushes through everything. It's almost like Skinwalkers is that scene in the movie at the start of a horror movie where there's just random people and you see the monster kill them, and then the movie starts with the actual characters.
Yeah,
that's basically what it is.
Yep. Yeah, and then like even the end, like where it cuts, like he's like welcome home, and then like it cuts to the cops find the cabin and find all the bodies, including the Alex and Jason's bodies and stuff like that. I would like to actually read the story of the search, going into these woods and finding this cabin and finding all this horrible stuff.
And that's what I'm saying. Like
that's a more interesting story for me as well. Is like what if this story has nothing to do with Jason and Alex, in terms of like actually like walking along with them, but actually have it be the search for Jason and Alex and like getting some information about Jason and Alex and what they went to. And then finding them in this weird cabin and stuff like that. And then, again, finding, like, the lead detective or something like that gets a lead about, like, the couple states over, like, Alex.
And then you go investigate.
That's a more interesting story.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this entire story is the start of a story.
Yeah.
It's just, like I said earlier, it's just like at the start of a horror movie, they kill random characters to show what the monster does, and then the actual movie starts.
Yeah.
That's what this could have been, and it could have been awesome. Yeah. Because of that, if it continued.
But because it isn't, like, I'm not really immersed. Like, we basically just like, oh well, Alex. Like, we're just told that like Jason has a family. Like, he moved out and has a family. Alex stayed home and tends to the parents and stuff like that. But that's about the only backstory we're getting from these characters, and then we just dive right into we're hanging out in the woods, and like, oh, well, that's weird. Some animals are coming in, like, and like they don't even like really make much of that. And then suddenly the wolf, and then even as the wolf like approaches, like they're staying perfectly still, like they're still just like chilling and lying down.
Yeah, but okay, in the story's defense, Alex did say, "Oh, just be still. He'll go away."
Yeah, and and then he transforms into the man. It's like, oh god, it's just.
Yeah, they could have done more, essentially, if they continued. Because what they could have done was, at the end where it showed Alex being the Skinwalker, it could have continued there where he went home and because he was taking care of his parents could have thought something was weird about him, and they could have brought in someone.
Exactly. Basically, it boils down to the story doesn't have a lot of meat on it right now. There needs to be a lot more like work put in it. It's barely the summary of a first draft.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's basically a trailer to a better story, to a bigger movie.
Yep.
And not even the good
And that
kind
being
of trailer
said-
that like teases. It's more or less the trailer that tells you all the good bits.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
That being said, if the author is listening to this, please continue the story.
Yes.
Because we'd be totally down for it.
Yeah, I'd like to. I'd read
Because
this one
it's
again.
an interesting opening to it.
And
it's just an opening.
It's actually closer to the original, like the origin of the Skinwalkers. Like it's not just the one where like there are things that in the woods that turn into people and like try to mimic people and stuff like that and hunt them. That's actually like more or less the Navajo or like Indian witch that transforms and like seeks vengeance on people because like again like they're trespassing on its property.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's one of my points actually. When the Skinwalker shows up to them, and the first thing he does is he asks them to leave.
Yeah.
And they get pissed at him, right? Which, first of all, if you see a wolf turn into a man, you don't argue with them. Okay? You don't go, fuck you, I'm here to camp. I got marshmallows cooking.
first world problems.
Yeah, no shit. So, okay, so he tells them to leave, okay? So, it sounds like from the get-go, all he wants them to do is leave. Just leave, okay? And then they go, no. But the problem is, the way they describe it, he was blocking them from leaving.
Well, no,
So he told them to leave, and he also prevented them to leave at the same time. So it's not
I
like,
have a feeling
go,
it was more or
right
less
now.
like- yeah, I have a feeling it was more like get the fuck out of here, like go that way or whatever, and then like basically
It's more along the
He doesn't
lines of,
care.
I'm here to kill you.
Yeah,
Not
basically,
please leave.
like basically please leave was his warning, even though he was going to still kill them anyways. Because it's basically
Why
like,
bother, though?
it's a villain thing.
No, but if his whole intent was to kill them, and he's intelligent enough to talk, you should be like, you're trespassing on my land, now you must die.
Yeah,
Not, get out of here.
yeah. unless,
that's too
unless
casual.
he wanted the chase.
No, but there would be a chase if he said, you will now die. Because they'd be like, oh god, we need to run. Or
Yeah.
if it's like, please leave, it's like, okay, we'll just pack up and leave. Okay, bye.
Yeah, but
You're real nice, by the way.
it was a horror movie thing. Like again, it was it's another failing of the horror movie thing. It's like
Yeah. But it's just a shame it didn't go on, because there's so many ways you can do it.
exactly.
'Cause
Like we came up
mentioned
with like 3 at least.
I know, and another one is they mentioned that Jason, I believe it's Jason, right?
Yeah.
Is married.
Yeah,
So
has
when he
family.
doesn't come home, his wife would be like coming over to investigate.
Or what if he came home? Not Alex. Like Alex just is gone. But what if Jason went home and but he came home wrong. Came home weird.
He came home as the Skinwalker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been cool.
Yep.
And then we have a whole basically it becomes a whole new dynamic where basically the survivor or protagonist is basically the wife trying to get away from not Jason.
Yep.
But yeah,
So many ways to take
yeah,
it.
we did. Yeah, again,
And feel free to take any of them, author, if you're
Oh
listening.
yeah, that's a given with the show because that's why we
We're here to help.
part of why we do this discussion. But yeah, you got there's some stuff there, but you stopped. You got to keep going,
Yes, exactly.
and maybe some editing,
Keep certain Nazis off your back.
yeah. But that's about it. There's nothing else I can really say about the story. It's just it's too short
Unfortunately,
and too skimmed. So you got to put more meat on those bones.
Totally.
So that was the the 2 stories. So recommendations. Tentatively, I want to actually recommend Skinwalker, if only just as a rake story.
Yes.
It is definitely a better rake story than a Skinwalker story. Change the name if just get rid of the Skinwalker thing because it's not really a Skinwalker at all.
No, it's not.
You just find some other a better name for it, come up with something better, or just call it have something it's a rake story. It's not a Skinwalker story, but it's a good story.
Yeah. I mean, it even could still be, I would still roll with the father saying that the Skinwalker, if they were in an area that was around where Skinwalker stories actually happen, because it could have been a rake that navigated up to where they
Or
are.
maybe the rake is what Skinwalkers are as well.
Yeah, I'm just
maybe
saying,
the rake is just the new name for it.
Yeah.
kind of thing.
I'm just saying, because that would make sense why he would know that name.
Yeah.
And be like, maybe this is a Skinwalker, because that's a weird monster.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So recommendation for you as well then.
Yeah, I like the story. It's just, it's the wrong name for the story.
Yeah.
Everything else was good. Oh, well, I think they need to describe...
They definitely, yeah, and there's definitely room for improvement.
Of course,
tons of room for
yeah.
improvement because, again, consistency. Give us goddamn names. like
rough years and
maybe like a starting point, like my grandfather went hunting and like
exactly at the start. My problem was at the start. It's the very first word was we. Instead of we, it should have been my father and I were out hunting.
Yeah.
So then from the get go, you're with the dad.
Like, it was
you're out hunting.
1967. Like,
Yeah.
my
I was
father and
13.
yeah.
I was out with my dad.
Yeah, like
In the first minute, you should know these things. You should know the age of the character and who's there.
yeah,
and
or at least
rough
well,
timeline.
not all the time, but like definitely like you it shouldn't be like left in the dark as badly as we were in this one.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I thought it was like 4 fucking 20 to 30 people, 20 to 30 years old people going out to hunting, and then later on I find it's just him and his dad, and he's 13 years old.
Yeah.
I read through half the story before I realized the age of the character. So it's hard to get in the mentality of the character if you don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Until then,
Yeah.
But either way, I'd recommend it because it's a good story. It's just, it has problems, like all stories do. Nothing's perfect, right?
Yeah. And this one is definitely, aside from the title and stuff like that, it's definitely...
It was a good story. I liked it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I was enthralled, and I continued reading all the way through.
Yeah.
I didn't give up on it or nothing.
Well, I'm glad, because otherwise, why, like...
If it's that bad...
It's like a confessional. It's like, actually, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't read the story at all. Like, halfway through.
That's why I listened to you the entire time. Because I had to listen to the story through you.
Nice. But no, yeah. And then for Skinwalkers, I'm not going to recommend. There's some cool stuff there. If it gets worked on, I could recommend it, but as it is right now, I'm not recommending it.
I would recommend it just for the sake of giving the author some credit and to encourage him to continue.
Oh no, I'm encouraging him to continue. I just, as the story is right now, I can't recommend it.
It's a fun trailer. It's not a good story, it's a fun trailer. I'll say that.
All right.
Because it's short enough that it's not like it's going to take an hour of your time.
Yeah.
So,
unlike this episode,
this is excellent use of your time. It's not taking or wasting your time.
Yeah. So yeah, that's...
Yeah.
I guess that's this week's episode.
Indeed.
So if you like what you heard, all of it, if you didn't, you can leave us a comment in the comment section below where if this gets posted, whether it be on Kiwi6, Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr. We're on iTunes, so leave us a rating or a review. Every little bit helps. Let us know how we're doing. I'm on Twitter at ReviewCultist. Gamer in Yellow is on Xbox Live?
Yeah, I don't do anything else. I'm just on Xbox.
Okay.
Just at the Gamer in Yellow with no W on the end because Xbox doesn't allow me enough characters to have my full title.
Fair enough. And you can also leave us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. Where you can leave us suggestions for other creepypastas you'd like us to discuss on the show. Or if you're an author of one that we've done on the show and would like to yell at us or like let us know how what you think about what we thought about your story.
Hopefully positive stuff.
Well, I mean,
we try to be as positive as possible, right? Me specifically. Yeah. I don't know about you.
The
rest.
We have a spectrum.
Okay.
Is what I've discovered since doing this show is we have like people. Some of us really enjoy stories. Some of us don't like the story as much. But we do try to create criticism, or creative criticism.
It's never just this sucks. I don't care why. It's just this is bad.
Yeah. Despite what it sounds like sometimes, we don't do this out of hate for the story or for the person that did the story. We read the story, we discuss it, and we want to know, and we propose ideas for how to make the story better, and to improve on it. It's just
to improve the creepypasta community.
Yeah, to make the creepypasta community a stronger writing group, basically. That's all it is. So yeah, and you can check out the title cards for each episode on YouTube as part of the videos, or on Tumblr at crazonstudios.tumblr.com. And if you would like to support us, go to Patreon and look up Al Dente Rigor Mortis. We have several different tiers of patronage. Most of the time it's just extra content or an extra show, and early access, depending on which tier you choose. So, until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
And I am the Gamer in Yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well. suicide.
It's unnecessary.
No, it
This is
is.
intense shit. You have to prepare for it.
This is the episode that Review Cultist just quits the podcast.
Just done.
It's like, I'm done with your shit. Fucking contradicting motherfucking assholes. I'm out.
Jesus. 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 Jesus.